You are listening to the Fiddler's Forum with American violinist DePue. Today, DePue discusses his latest album, Modern Paganini, how the title happened, the world tour with legendary rock guitarist Steve Vai, the remake of Merle Haggard hit Workin' Man Blues featuring Rhonda Vincent, the Queen of Bluegrass, and finally, a premiere performance from DePue of the Bach Partita No. 3 in E major. Welcome to the Fiddler's Forum.
I think everything worked. I think we're hooked up to go live. How's my hair? Hey, we're going to wait while people gather and join and all of that stuff. For those of you interested in the violin in particular, you might want to tune in to this broadcast. Oh, I don't know. I'm releasing yet another version most violinists record throughout the course of their careers. It's from the book of 6 Sonatas and Partitas by Johann Sebastian Bach. We're talking about the Baroque era, 1700s-ish. And hi, Bernie, welcome. And wow, so I recorded my own. I can tell you just a little bit of the story as my little brother, Zachary DePue, came for a little visit down here to San Diego, where the sun always shines. And hi, Renee, welcome. Thanks for being here. I was just talking about the Bach Partita No. 3, and I could go on for quite some time, so settle yourselves in for a fun story. This is Story Hour with the Fiddler. Welcome. I was just saying that most violinists throughout the course of their career at least study the Bach partitas and sonatas for solo violin. It is one of the few Bibles that violinists carry, I would say even on a daily basis. My students certainly do carry the Bach solo sonatas and partitas on a daily basis. They are, hi, Tatinho. Hi, welcome. So, we carry several Bibles, one of which, again, if you're my student on the violin, you have in your possession right now a copy of Carl Flesch scale system. And although it's kind of a dreaded portion of, hi, Barbara, welcome. It's kind of a dreaded portion of our daily routine as violinists, but hey, if you don't eat your vegetables, you can't grow up to be big and strong. So it is the equivalent of a well-balanced meal, the way I present material to students. Basically, it begins with a whole lot of vegetables. So like I said, if you don't eat your vegetables, you can't grow up to be a big and strong violinist. Okay, this was instilled upon me at a very early age by a guy named Aaron Rosand. Aaron Rosand is on staff with the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, a very well-known, fabulous violinist. And when I was about 10 years old, he made a stop to Bowling Green, Ohio, where my father was on the faculty. My dad is a professor of composition and theory. He worked for 35 years at Bowling Green State University, that's BGSU. For the rest of this broadcast, we shall refer to the school as BGSU, Bowling Green State University. And upon meeting Mr. Rosand after his performance, we were invited to play for him. Now, when you play for another violinist, especially of his stature, you can expect a lot of education as the result of that. Now, at age 10, my education with Aaron Rosand was just this much. I'll share it with you in one sentence. I'm 10 years old, okay? I'm looking up at the guy. He's got a cigar. He's got, I'm pretty sure he had a drink on top of the piano. And he says, that's great, but can you play a scale? Can you play C major scale, 3 octaves? And I looked at Wallace, who's my older brother, and he looked at me, and I couldn't play a scale. I had nothing to give Aaron Rosand in the department of scales, at which point he quickly ripped off of his own music stand a copy of the Carl Flesch scale system. Because guess what? Even Aaron Rosand goes nowhere without it. So he's got his own scales with his own fingerings and his own plan every day to execute what is a regimen for violinists. As violinists, we operate with those little itty-bitty muscles that nobody can see. So unlike your Olympic athletes who train those big muscles that we all get to look at and admire from afar, the violin is the same kind of strenuous training, but we're dealing with itty-bitty little muscles and learning how to control and strengthen those muscles with the same vigorous mindset that one might expect from an Olympic athlete. So, vegetables, a big portion of your life as a violinist, especially when you're my student. I have examples far and wide, some of whom are among you already as professional violinists. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and name names, and hopefully they'll appreciate the fact that I'm proud of every single one of them as the solo artists they have become, as well as those who are still in training, hiding even. You have yet to meet on a public level. The immediate name that comes to mind is a young man out in Idaho. He's living on a ranch with his mother and father and sister, and has been practicing under my tutelage for a number of years, like at least 5. And that young man has been eating his vegetables to the point where he showed up ready to play F-sharp minor, which is that's probably the most difficult scale for violinists because it's the highest one before we get back to the key of G. And there's no reason to play a 3-octave scale way up there when we have an open G string. Anyway, it's a long story. Noah is a great example. Let's talk about examples who have come through my studio over the years, who are among you, and living as professional musicians even as we speak. Olivia Skaya just gave her senior recital last Sunday, and fabulous, wonderful success. She just soloed with the orchestra up there in Minnesota, playing the Mendelssohn Third Movement. A delightful performance from Olivia. I can't say enough, because I'll tell you, of those students I've had who worked, she worked, and she got the results. Another name that comes to mind is young Daniel Emmett. Dan Emmett came to me as a 10-year-old in the state of Michigan. I was teaching, forget the name of the suburb out there. Anyway, it was Royal something Academy of Music. But anyway, I had a roster of students, and Dan Emmett was among them. As a 10-year-old, he was absolutely priceless. So at the risk of him hearing this ultimately and then, blushing or, I don't know what else, but wow, did he move along in life until he ended up playing with oh boy. Dan has worked with just about any country music singer you can think of. So either in the band itself or opening for, being on the same bill with, much like I was with Chris Cagle. So there are 2 portions to my life as a teacher, one of which is the formal classical violinist who we're going to get to meet a little bit today. I have a release of Bach Partita number 3 in E major, and I'll tell you the story about that in a little bit, but I want to name some more names. Cedra Bistido comes to mind. I heard her for the first time in Nashville, Tennessee. As a classically trained violinist, she ended up winning every trophy there was to win. back in the days she was studying with me. So we're talking about national championships, and in the classical world, she also won a fair share of those chances to perform with major orchestras and so forth and so on. Other names. So Mia Asano came through the studio not too very long ago, and for those of you tuned into the violin world, you know who she is. She's all over the map. And other names. So among those who are hidden still, who can we think of? Can you help me with that? If you think of anybody. Who?
Students, you mean?
Yeah, students who are hiding. Aria was once a student. And I gotta say, the name of my most recent album is called Modern Paganini. One of the reasons I called it Modern Paganini is because of those arrangements which exist throughout the album of a solo nature, not unlike Bach, not unlike Paganini caprices that we all know and love, 1 through 24. We've all got a separate kind of developed love for each one of those caprices. And I felt as though some of the arrangements on the most recent album were of the same ilk. So difficult to perform. It's quite an accomplishment to have memorized, even for me. So the story right quick is this. Putting the album together and coming up with content for it. I always loved the tune Separate Ways by Journey. I went about the process coming up with an arrangement, never wrote down a note, and I rarely do, but assembled what would be my final presentation of solo violin Separate Ways by Journey. I do this because, just by accident, my very first hit internationally was Owner of a Lonely Heart, Smooth Criminal, which went viral on YouTube in 2006 to where I was literally trending. The violin solo hit millions of views, and then my manager at the time, I don't know what happened, but he took it down. And as the result, I had to post another one. It was a good thing for me because I found a performance that I liked even better, and that's the one that we see now. The original one still exists, but it's the one where I'm wearing a green shirt is the one you want to listen to, especially for those of you who have bought the score. The score, of course, is available at DePue.com. I would type that somewhere. If I could, I can type it right here. This is important. www.alexdepue.com, and there you go. I don't know where that went. It just disappeared. So there it is. All right, I'm not going to worry about that stuff. I'm not going to sweat the stupid stuff, as my buddy Rusty Rhodes would say. Oh my, I could keep you here for a long time tonight, folks. Now, if you're into it, give me a yeah in the comments section. And if you ain't, well, then maybe you should tune into a different broadcast. Because we got a lot to talk about. This Bach business, the vegetables, the names I'm going to share with you. The fact that the reason my most recent album is called Modern Paganini is because of those arrangements like Separate Ways. One that you might know by now already is called Bonaparte's Retreat. If you're tuned in at all to what it is I serve musically, or the DePue brothers, well, there are 4 of us, by the way, 4 violin playing brothers who have been making a living playing the violin for as long as we can remember. So that includes myself. I produce the albums and develop a lot of the original content. We all pretty much have an equal say when it comes to that. At least I like to think so. So that whole unit is led by none other than, still, believe it, our father. His name's Dr. Wallace DePue Sr., and he's still around, willing to yell at you. If and when you make a mistake, you'll know it. Dr. Wallace DePue, I can't thank him enough. I wouldn't be sitting here in this studio enjoying these toys that I've got to play with, along with this gold microphone right here. You got to look at it. You got to see it to believe it. Look at it. That's a Manly microphone, made by Manly Labs Incorporated. Gonna make these little announcements to see if we can pick up some sponsorship. And speaking of sponsorship, that really kind of brings us to the reason I've called you all together today. The reason I've called you all together is to celebrate the fact that our sponsors are so generous, over the top supportive of what it is we do here. The name of my company, it's a California-based company. It's called The Fiddler LLC. We have a DUNS number and, an operating license and all of that great stuff awarded by the state. You're more than welcome to look it up. It's Googleable. The Fiddler LLC. Under that umbrella fall several different companies that we've been developing. I say we, it's really me. I've been developing over many years to the point where we have publishing in-house. So if and when you're invited to record here at OVNI Studios, that's OVNI, we have a Facebook page, OVNI Studios, and it's invite only, unfortunately, because I don't have a staff. It's just me. And if we get along, and most importantly, we have to really be on the same page musically. That's really the number one criteria, is you got to be good at what you do. So for those who are some of the artists who have come in and out of the doors here include recording artist Spencer Day, fabulous singer, songwriter, pianist. He sat right here in this very chair, and we have a piano right here provided by Nord Keyboards. This is a Nord Stage 2 piano that you can't see, but it's right here, literally, where my hands are tapping. Spencer Day, one of our artists here at OVNI Studios. Another is Rhonda Vincent, the Queen of Bluegrass. Now, on the latest album, Modern Paganini, Rhonda is featured for a tribute that I did for a country legend. His name is Merle Haggard. For those of you who know that name, Merle Haggard, and why shouldn't you? What a fabulous, fabulous legend. He left this world a better place to be in, and as soon as I heard of his passing, I got straight to work and developed the drums, added the bass, did some guitars, and I needed somebody to sing the tune. I needed a professional to come in and sing as the centerpiece of the track what it was my mind had been hearing all of that time during production. So the drums were inspired on that track. We're talking about Working Man Blues from Modern Paganini. After a short spat with my little brother Zachary, I went up into the drum room and, like an upset orangutan, attacked the drum set for the track. Got that out of the way, and then got all of the other parts recorded and ready to print. When finally I sent it to Rhonda Vincent, along with the invitation to sing on top of it, and sing she did. The end result, because of her insistence, really, she wouldn't have it any other way than for me to fly to Nashville and put together a video for that track. The track is slamming. It's industry quality stuff. And when you hear that on your own system or in your car or wherever you want to listen to music, you're going to find the same to be true. It is commercially radio friendly, and on it we have a celebrity. Her name is Rhonda Vincent. She's known as the Queen of Bluegrass, but she ought to be known for more than that, because I'm here to tell you, after you listen to that tune, you will want her to be on your radio all the time, perhaps on the country station. Now, she was just inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Grand Ole Opry. She is now an Opry member. The Grand Ole Opry. I've played it a handful of times myself, and I just couldn't be happier for Rhonda. Pretty good timing, too, on the behalf of the Fiddler LLC, because we were able to figure out how to not only get her on the album singing on top of those tracks, but also I took her up on that invitation, flew to Nashville. We did the video shoot at an American Legion Hall on the edge of Nashville, and it was very necessary to have those same players that we had in the studio for that track, because there's no way anybody could mimic the guitar playing of one John Carroll on the guitar. Now, he's from Texas. He lives in Texas, and he and I worked together on the Chris Cagle tour for far too long. Kidding, John. John is on the guitar, and it was kind of like a dream come true. He and I worked together not only with Chris, but as soon as Chris had his hiatus from Capitol Records, John moved back to Austin, and I went with him to hop on the bus with another gentleman named Corey Morrow. Corey continues to produce slammin' records through his own operation in the state of Texas. So that says a lot about John Carroll and his contribution to Workin' Man Blues, one of the latest tracks off of this album, Modern Paganini. Oh, back to the reason I called it Modern Paganini was twofold. The idea hit me and stuck while on tour with Steve Vai. Now everybody wants to know, who is Steve Vai? Steve Vai is the greatest living electric rock and roll guitar player known to mankind. I first became hip to Steve Vai when my father, Dr. Wallace DePue Sr., was sitting in the living room on 950 Fairview in Bowling Green, Ohio, when I was about 14 years old. He says, "Boys, come on in here. You got to see this. You got to see this." And so I believe him. I still do. I ran in there, and just in time to catch the duel between Steve Vai and Ralph Macchio in the middle of the movie, where Steve is representing the devil, and Ralph, because Ralph made the unwise decision of selling his soul to the devil earlier in the story to be able to play the guitar as well as he did, had to beat Steve Vai in a guitar contest to win his soul back from the devil. So the devil's number one apprentice is Steve Vai, who makes his Hollywood debut on camera during a film called Crossroads. If you look that up, it'll blow your face clean off, because that's what it did for me at age 14. I came in there to the living room, and Dad was right once again. Without question, it changed my life. And as a matter of fact, it began what we could call a form of envisioning. I've been a big believer in this. Aside from the Christian faith and our holy God, the Father, through Jesus Christ, the whole reason we're here to begin with. I mean, there's a reason to all this madness, people. You can't believe you're all alone out there. You just can't. Anyway, Steve Vai, I was only classically trained up until the point of seeing this guy on television. Thanks to my dad, called me in. I was like, I don't want to play the violin like this printed page. I want to play the instrument like he does. Because the mastery that you see come forth through the screen during that scene, Crossroads, featuring Steve Vai, and God bless him, Ralph Macchio did a fabulous job with his own part in simulating an actual guitar player. I understand he was coached quite a bit for the part. I saw myself at that moment not only learning to play the instrument and master it at some level, the same as what I was witnessing from Steve Vai, but I also wanted to play with Steve Vai. I saw the whole thing. I could see myself on the stage with the guy. I could see us working together and like rocking out on a particular motif. I could see the whole thing in my brain. Well, come to real life in 2007, after this video went viral, guess who came knocking on my door? It was Steve Vai's manager inviting me to an audition. It was a cattle call, open call audition. Whomever thought that they could pass the gig was the one that they invited to go audition. So I went ahead and auditioned, and I was up against some pretty mean talent for that job, but envisioning pays off, and I ended up with a world tour all over the world with the greatest living electric rock guitarist ever. So let's see. The name of the album, Modern Paganini, led me to call it such because in the middle of that tour, when we got to Italy, it was my birthday, and we were playing Rome that evening, and we did sound check, which with Steve is a pretty lengthy process. Like, we touch up things and we get things to the point of being ready to execute on the kind of level that you see for our final result. You'll see it all over the internet now. It's called Steve Vai Live in Minneapolis, Where the Wild Things Are. The project ultimately in 2010, it was nominated for a Grammy because of the first tune, Now We Run, and earned everybody in the band a gold record from the Recording Industry Association of America, Academy of America. And it's hanging on the wall right over there. It earned us yet another one from Canada. Canada has a different system, so their first step is platinum. I've got another platinum record in this corner over there for the same project, and it's one that I'm very proud to have been involved with because, wow, Steve Vai, I still have to pinch myself whenever the topic comes up. Like, did that really happen? Did that? And of course it did. And I still talk to Steve every now and then, especially if and when there's something new to celebrate, as is the case this evening. In Italy, we hit the sound check. I went back, had just enough time in Rome to get my clothes changed and report back to the venue to do the show. And it didn't even cross my mind that the interview I had given that same day with a television station there called TV7 Rome, it's a local news station, who came there to do a story not on Steve. They came there to do a story on me. And I'm not sure exactly how that happened, aside from the fact that Italy and Italians take the violin very seriously. Like, that's where the great violins emanated. We're talking about Stradivarius, Guadagnini, Guarneri, these violins themselves, the products of Italy and the makers who made them. 1700s-ish and so that brings me to what? What am I telling you about? Anybody have any questions? This is awfully quiet over here. Is it because you're all listening, or nobody cares? I've been blabbing on for 30 minutes already. I haven't even started. So I'm getting ready for the show. We're about to go on. I'm about to go back to the venue and play Rome, Italy. It's an outdoor venue, gorgeous place that's cram-packed, full of people screaming bloody murder. And before the shuttle taking us to the venue, I'm putting on my shirt, getting ready for the show, and on comes this interview from TV7, which features me. And I mean, they mentioned Steve, and that it's Steve's show, and that he's playing that night, but wow, couldn't believe it, and until finally at the end, you know, I hear my name several times from this newscaster, and then I heard the name Paganini involved with the same paragraph, and somehow they had made the association that if I could quote it perfectly, I would, but it's something to the effect of, and if Paganini were born this day, his name might be Alex DePue, because he is that for us, and tonight he is that for all of Italy. Now, pretend you're me getting ready for the show, and that's the introduction you hear before the shuttle leaves to take you to the venue. I mean, I don't know that I should ever have been compared with Paganini, but again, in Italy, they take the violin very seriously, and of course, they take Paganini very seriously because he's from there. So the greatest violinists are coming to us from Italy, the greatest violins are coming to us from Italy, and I again, got to keep pinching myself because that's where it began. That's where the slogan began. And as much as I would like to take credit for it, I just can't. It was TV7 in Rome, Italy, who came up with that quote. And I do use it. I'm going to use that one for the rest of life. Now, prior to that, there was another reason, is because these arrangements which exist within the context of an album, now called Modern Paganini, I figured I'd have to come up with some content which would be comparable with that Paganini penned and set forth into motion as the composer slash violinist that he was. Paganini was rumored to have sold his own soul to the devil, just like Ralph Macchio did in the movie. And rumored to have sold his bit to be able to play the violin as well as he did. Niccolò Paganini is from Italy, and to come up with some content that might pass the bar, I went ahead and assembled, during the process of recording the album, a couple different arrangements, which I feel are Paganini-esque. I think they do fit the bar. Whereas Owner of a Lonely Heart maybe approaches the bar, that was really just something I put together because I had 5 minutes of stage time that my manager happened to be able to get for me right at the right time and the right place, and literally exploded. Thank God for him. His name's Chris Richards, and I wanted to say hello to you, Chris, and just don't think I've forgotten. I remember everything that's happened. So, moving on, some of the arrangements that I would equate with Paganini's writings would be We Built This City. That is the radio tune you all know and love from the 1980s. It was recorded by Starship, Jefferson Starship. At the time that tune was released, they were called just Starship. I think they're touring now under the name Jefferson Starship. And then there was variations. They've had a long dramatic past together. Starship, Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship Airplane, Jefferson Airplane Starship. Many different configurations of the same band. And that video of We Built This City prompted yet again another dream come true scenario for yours truly when the lead singer called and said, "Hey, we're coming through San Diego. You want to join us? We saw your video of We Built This City, and we'd like you to come play it on stage with us." And I was like, yeah, I'm there. And not only, her name's Kathy Richardson, by the way. She goes by an alias on Facebook. So if you go hunting for Kathy, you're going to find the real thing through that name, Kathy Richardson. But I'm not going to tell you all what her secret name is, because then her thing will blow up. And, well, not only was I invited to play the tune prior to when the drums come in with the sextop, she invited me to open the show for 30 minutes all by myself in front of a rock and roll audience with a loop pedal and nothing more. So blow your head off amazing. Like, of course, I went on up there and took advantage of those 30 minutes I had in front of a crowd that I was very comfortable playing for. That's all documented on YouTube. You're more than welcome to hunt it down. We still have yet to release the actual performance live playing We Built This City. But anyway, Modern Paganini, these arrangements, We Built This City is one of them. Another one of them is Separate Ways by Journey. Now that's a tune you all know and love, I hope. If you don't, well then you need to do some homework, because that's one of those that you just can't help but to rock out to. Now, after we watch the video, I'm going to come back and tell you a little story from my own personal life as to what has happened this last week with regard to this next tune. I'm going to play it for you now. Here we go. Wish me luck as I switch frames. I'm going to wait for 2 seconds. Stay tuned. Here we go. Well, For those of you who just saw that for the first time, it's been out since like 2018, I want to say, and this is the album Modern Paganini. That was separate ways from Modern Paganini, and I do have the appropriate licensing through my company, The Fiddler LLC. We do handle publishing here as well under Compulsive Fiddler Publishing. That was set up specifically by Steve Vai on my behalf. Because guess what? He didn't have to share any publishing from his own project with us, but he did. And to the point where not only did he share his own portion of the pie with us, but he did so in such a way that he constructed for each one involved their own publishing company. So I don't know if you're familiar with how it goes, but songwriters, they get 50% of their royalties for having written the song. And then whomever is responsible for publishing on the song, either we've got two options, just like we think we've got two options for everything. It's ASCAP or BMI, just like it's McDonald's or Burger King, and they're basically serving the same product. Anyway, just the amount of thanks in my heart to Steve Vai for making all of that happen for me. I wouldn't be where I am today without that man's help. And if and when you're lucky enough to see Steve Vai in concert, take advantage of that situation because you'll never forget it. He's that amazing. Show 1 was in Germany, so we completed a month of rehearsals, and the rehearsals were longer than the European leg of the tour. What's my point here? The European leg of the tour was long. It wasn't as long as what it took to rehearse. And now I can't remember where I was headed with that whole point. Anyway, does anybody have any questions for me so far? If you do, please feel free. I'm looking at the comments here, and I can see, I can't address every single one, but all you have to do is go to DePue.com, and there you'll see everything we have to offer, both in the form of digital downloads for your music collection, which is way better to have so that you have control over them, as opposed to Spotify, where I do have my own artist channel at Spotify. All you have to do is search Alex DePue. If that's your means for playing live music, feel free to check that out. Steve Vai, European leg. Oh, so we finished the rehearsals. I had one night off before we had to catch the flight to Germany. I spent my night off at the National Fiddling Championship in Boise, Idaho, near Boise. It's a town called Weiser, and I was not there as a contestant, as I had been years past. I was there instead as an invited performer, and wow, was that a fun show, because after a month of rehearsing with Steve Vai, it's much like a boot camp for musicians when you enter the Steve Vai band. Lots of focus on detail, and if you see Now We Run, which is the first track of that project, and you'll understand what I mean when I say boot camp. Like, the first week of rehearsal was spent on nothing but Now We Run. So we're talking about a score that is about half as thick as the Bach. Anyway, I see you, Sam. I see you on there. And yes, Weiser is so cool. Went there the last time we visited Weiser. Sam was with me, actually, on the double bass, and we performed for the National Fiddling Championship. Well, on this occasion, this was years prior, so, I can't even, 2007. 2007 was the year. Hit the stage there, flew to Germany, and after so much rehearsing with Steve Vai, I was now ready, after performing at the National Fiddling Championship the night before, in Germany, seated at the keyboard. My role was keyboard/electric violin, and in place, ready to do what we had been training for a month prior to the first show in Germany. And I didn't know what all was involved on a theatrical level. So I'm sitting there, and there's, of course, all the smoke and the fog and the lasers and this low rumble and this, like, I didn't know about the opening theme music, nor did I know that my boss was going to be making his entrance amidst the smoke and fog, wearing a cape and sunglasses, to the point where I looked to my right and it scared me. I fumbled the chord. I'm supposed to be sustaining this chord. Anyway, what an amazing experience. So when I say the greatest who ever lived, I mean that his playing during show 1 that I just described in Germany versus his playing I heard 88 shows later in Hollywood was still enough to keep me literally on the edge of my seat, awaiting what he planned to do next, because it was never the same twice. He is literally, I think he's even referred to by Frank Zappa as his little Italian virtuoso. So, a great story. You'll have to ask Steve for the story about his audition for Frank Zappa, because it's one he likes to tell. And the other thing is that I have one that's somewhat similar all of a sudden as of this week. Because I'm telling you, I'm bragging all about this album called Modern Paganini, thinking that the arrangement you just heard was of the sort that, and I think most violinists would agree, like, to pull that off is going to take months of practice. It's going to take some dedication, and it's going to take some math skills. It's going to take some other kinds of skills as a violinist, getting things in shape for fingerings and bowings, and unless you're connected with the original source, good luck. Well, there is somebody who has been connected with the original source, and she showed up this week. Her name is Aria Styles, Stiles. And I know that that's confusing for those of you who know I'm engaged to Aria Noel Curzon. This is a different Aria, probably the only other Aria, but I happen to know and love them both. And Aria Styles showed up for her. It's not working right now. It's okay. I hope it's working. And is the audio still, everybody good? Okay. So, she showed up not only with the score that she had been working on for all of this time, Aria Styles, Stiles, but she also showed up ready to play it. And she played it from head to toe in the kind of condition that I could only hope to achieve. I'll just tell you briefly what the story is behind the actual recording you just heard. Is I'm here in the studio and things start getting, what do you say, comfortable after a while. I start getting complacent with the fact that we can record into a gold microphone and process it through these vintage Avalon tube preamp that goes into the Apollo 16 by Universal Audio as the processor, which turns it into an information that the computer can absorb and identify. And after a few years of living in that kind of luxury, you gotta start asking yourself, like, what can I get away with? So I went ahead with this arrangement of separate ways, and I did construct it piece by piece into a condition that I felt presentable enough to record. Now, what that means is not in front of a live audience, but record in front of a microphone in the privacy of my own home. That kind of condition. So I did that and put it together. I think the final version, I added some bass and drums just to fill it out, so it's not just a naked solo violin. Nobody wants too much of that for very long. But in any event, Aria Styles showed up not only with the tune that led me to want to believe it was just fine, calling my album Modern Paganini. Not only did she have it scored note for note the way I played it, but she also was able to play it herself. Now, when that surfaces as the performance she should give, we're going to have another meeting, just like this one, where we admire and watch in awe as she performs that piece, and because she can already do it. She's got it ready to go. And Aria, if you've ever had inspiration to continue the quest, here it is. Go get them. Knock them down, because you've done a lot of work getting that into the condition it is, and I'm not going to be quiet about it. You can see already that this is just the beginning, this little video. I will be singing your praises, because also we're going to share that sheet music with everybody who's interested in learning it themselves, because now we're going to have detailed directions thanks to Aria Styles and her hard work that she put into this arrangement you just heard. Separate ways, there it is. I feel like it's probably good to cover the fact that I'm one of four brothers, and I was getting down to telling you about them. Wallace DePue Jr. is the eldest brother. He's 3 years older than I am, and is a professional violinist, and has been ever since, well, I mean, our first public performance was in 1979 as a trio. So my father, Wallace, and myself, 72, 76, 77, even 1977, I could safely say we were in front of audiences professionally getting paid to perform. That includes Wallace DePue Jr. Of course, I was next. Also in the mix he was so adorable, is Jason DePue, who is now employed with the Philadelphia Orchestra in the first violin section. He's followed by Zachary DePue. Zachary just finished 11 years as concertmaster with the Indianapolis Symphony, and we couldn't be prouder of him. He's fabulous band leader. We just did a show up in San Diego for the Mainly Mozart Festival. Zachary was the band leader for that, and wow, does he do a fabulous job. Basically, Zachary does what successful band leaders have been known to do, and that is, it's very simple. Rely on the people that you've hired to do what it is they do. If you hire Steve Vai to play the guitar, don't tell Steve Vai what to play. Just let him do what he does. And then, just like he did for me, there were no rules for my little spot that you see in the Steve Vai show. He just relied on his initial judgment, hiring the cat to begin with, to do what it is he knows they can do, and he had great faith in that. And so that's it. That's how Zachary ran his organization, and it was loaded with monsters like Joshua Fobari. I say Fobari because well, the studio is here in Mexico. I live up in El Cajon, and that's the business address as well. But we spend quite a bit of time down here at the recording studio. And why wouldn't we? It's beautiful down here, and the surroundings are just perfect for what it is I do, and that's music. So I'm going to share with you the latest, but I also wanted to prelude this premiere of the Bach, because it wouldn't be happening tonight if it weren't for Zachary, the guy I just introduced. Zachary John DePue came down here for a visit. In addition to the duties he had with the Mainly Mozart Festival up in San Diego, he made time in his schedule to get down here to the house, to the studio, and actually record something. And like the good brother I am, I captured that recording. He played it into the gold microphone, and it's here on my desktop. It's sitting there. But all it really did by the time he left was it inspired me to practice the same material, and I got it to the point where if I leave it now, I'll never record it. So while it was hot and in my memory, as his file sits there untouched, I went ahead with what you're about to see and hear, and instead I'm releasing my own version of Bach Partita number 3 in its entirety from beginning to end. So that's all movements. I've got the score right here. I wanted to say thank you to Zachary for inspiring this into reality. If it weren't for Zach, it just plain wouldn't happen. And, you know, it's been like that among the DePue brothers for as long as I can remember. Like, it's not often because we are competing with each other. It's more because you hear how you would shape or phrase any particular thing throughout the performance of anybody else giving it, brother or not. And to the point where, you know, for me, I had to get it out of my system. I had to record it. It's done. I don't know that we're going to upload it directly, at least not right away, to Facebook and YouTube, but it is uploaded throughout the course of this broadcast, and Facebook has been working with us. There is now just about to be released an Alex DePue violin app that I don't know how I ended up doing this, but I built an app. I used the content from the Facebook page and from my website and ended up able to build an app. So I flew in the folders into this software called Xcode and just kind of shuffled things around until it made sense. I mean, I did figure out how to use Pro Tools, so there aren't any barriers in my brain as to what I may or may not be able to accomplish this lifetime. But this app is certainly going to be an example of that if I can get it to the point where Facebook finalizes it. Right now, it's all green lights. Everything works. We've tested it. All I'm missing is the you know what? If there's anybody out there who could help me get this into a final condition that Facebook will accept and allow to go live, right now we have all of the permissions enabled for a business to build such a thing in the first place, but I don't know how to go about those final steps as a developer. I'm a developer. I have a developer account at Facebook, and we have an app that's just about ready to launch. It has its own page, so if you went to Facebook apps page or whatnot, you will see one that's called Alex DePue /violin. That is just the page for an app which will likely go live. If I have anything to do with it, it'll happen very soon. Wow, I told you about that. You know about the website. One of these days, I'd love to sit down with all of you and just have a question answer kind of situation, but wow, I burn up an hour of time here just talking about the project and some of those students who have surfaced, those who have come and those who have gone and those who are current in the roster, and they are the reason I'm still sitting here, really. You know, they are the students who provide for me inspiration in connecting with you, the listener, on a musical level. Otherwise, this would be more of a job to me these days. I've been doing it for so long, and I've lived so many years on a tour bus that if it weren't for the students' daily inspiration, Dad always said, you know nothing until you can explain it to somebody else. And that is 100% true, yet again, from my father, Wallace DePue Sr. You should look him up too. There are some recordings and compositions that man has in his catalog that nobody should live without. The number one hit for him was an arrangement, believe it or not, called Zink dem Herrn. And there isn't a choir from coast to coast who hasn't sung that arrangement. It's a march, and the voices sing this German march as they enter the venue before the final, before the show begins, really. So they get up on the stage, and then the show really begins. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking at you guys tonight. I'm going to leave you with yet another portion of your life as a violinist, especially under my roster of students. Your first Bible shall be Carl Flesch Scale System. Thanks to Aaron Rosan, and thanks to, I wanted to say a quick shout out to the memory of my dear violin teacher, Camilla Wicks. Camilla Wicks left the earth last November, and she will be doing a memorial meeting online for her very soon. Fabulous teacher. She was the first female violinist to have gained international acclaim through her recording of the Sibelius Violin Concerto, and hearing is believing. If you're interested, and assuming you're watching this, then you are interested, you should look that up and listen to her recording. It's often the go-to for anybody studying the Sibelius Violin Concerto, and she is a legend in the lives of anybody named DePue. So we're talking about the four brothers and the lessons we had with Camilla Wicks at the University of Michigan up in Ann Arbor, and the musical intellect she was able to communicate as a violinist. It'll be remembered, and it will live on for as long as I'm on this earth. And there are many more like me who studied with her. Well, I've got two brothers who already are in that club. So we're just very lucky. We're very fortunate, very blessed to have had the kind of training that we did. We're also very blessed to have people who care about listening to it, like you. Those who are tuned in tonight, especially, I'm just beyond words as to how to express to you my gratitude for your being here. You'll see all kinds of opportunities to contribute to the cause. You know what we're all faced with. I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. Just if you're in a position to help, please feel free. We have a lot of bills to pay. It's not over. On that note, I wanted to mention the very first name you'll see at the very top of this next video. This is our premiere tonight, the Bach Partita number 3, and came into reality because, number one, Zachary, okay, we all know that story, but also I was blessed with a new sponsor this year, 2 years, well, it's been, whatever it's been, it hasn't been that long. His name's Dr. Wentz, Dr. Myron Wentz, and the Wentz Foundation is responsible for some global action in the realm of medicine that you just might be interested in seeing and hearing more about. It is because of the doctor and his generosity that I'm able to play on an instrument that doesn't suck. All of my other acoustic violins up until age, 46? Not so good. aside from the Fred Warren violins, but that was when I was a kid, and we've kind of outgrown those. Anyway, I have a violin that reduces any excuse I might have for not passing an audition, for example, because the violin is of the same caliber that others who are vying for the same prize would be playing at their auditions. I have a competitive violin. That's all thanks to Dr. Wentz and the Wentz Foundation. My deepest gratitude to Dr. Wentz and also to the usual cast of characters. And we're talking about Glasser Bows. The number one bow manufacturer still in the world is Glasser. Glasser Bows. He now has a line of electric violins that shouldn't be ignored. I've got a gentleman online right now. His name's Joseph Shackelford, just playing the snot out of a Glasser violin. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard a Glasser violin sound as good as it does as when Joseph Shackelford has got the thing plugged in. You gotta see this gentleman play. He's a young man, and he will share with you what is the new, the wow, and the now with regard to violin and its popularity among the masses. Another big shout out to Connolly and Company. Now this is filtered down through several different until we get to Tomastic Infeld dominant violin strings. I've been working with Connolly and Company for decades. It was 2001 on tour with Chris Cagle when our manager just plain wouldn't have it any other way. We had to have a source for fiddle strings, and we had to have one now. So we called them up, and they were so easy to work with, and it's been a blessed opportunity to be able to call them friends since that day, since the day it happened. As a matter of fact, I'm about to call the world's best violin string maker to make yet another order soon, tomorrow. Another one on our team now is LR Bags. If you wish to take your acoustic sound on the violin and make it so that 20,000 people can hear it, if you want to be able to plug it in, the best way to capture that acoustic sound, there is none other. It is LR Bags who will do that job for your violin. Now, we don't want to take your 1700 Del Jesu and tear that up and drill holes in it and to be able to amplify it. But no, your beater fiddle. If you put an LR Bags pickup on your beater fiddle, it'll no longer be a beater fiddle. It'll be your professional work axe, and you'll be able to make money playing any violin that has an LR Bags pickup installed. It'll sound like gold. Ask me how I know. Ask me. How do you know, Alex? Well, because I use an LR Bags myself. And not only that, I'm not sure if they've added me to their website, but I'm a recent endorsee because of these kinds of public service announcements I give on behalf of Glasser. And I'll tell you, those are indestructible bows. They're disposable bows. They play great. The Glasser family studied the greats. As a matter of fact, a little known fact is that within the Glasser family, they own still Nathan Milstein's Golden Frog from his bow. Nobody's ever going to get to that unless they know the Glassers. Glasser also, they have a company in Tijuana, a factory in Tijuana where they make the product. So it was very easy to be going back and forth from the studio to Tijuana to work on the new line of electric violins with Glasser Manufacturing. And the violins I'm telling you about were personally designed with most of his input coming from none other than yours truly. Well, I'm happy about that. I'm happy with my association with Glasser Manufacturing. I'm happy with the fact that the violins turned out as well as they did. We're talking about the kind of playability enjoyable where I would show up to examine his latest prototype and be like, well, the spacing between the strings needs to come down. It needs to be a little bit narrower. We need to take the bridge height. We need to lower that just a little bit for ease and playability. And he went through the gamut of my itty-bitty little specific tailor-made changes until we ended up with the final prototype, which I took to Rio de Janeiro and premiered for the first time globally for the Olympics, the Olympics in 2016. It was myself and Miguel de Hoyos at Arts Games in Rio de Janeiro, and another day I'll show you the prototype of the Glasser violin that's hanging up on our wall here at the house. But you can also find it on YouTube, for example. Just look up my name and then The Bee. It's not the bee you're expecting. It's the one by Francois Schubert called The Bee or La Bee. Not The Flight of the Bumblebee. But I've got that on there too. You can just watch them all. And I hope you do, because we need the numbers. And we need you to like the video. We need you to subscribe. We need you to share. And if you like this new Bach, believe it when I tell you I'm going to go ahead and separate it so that it is its own video apart from this marathon broadcast, which has led us into the wee hours of the morning here. It's an hour and 15 minutes into the broadcast. No issues. Not one glitch in the system. And I feel like we've got spiritual help. That's what I feel. I'm going to move on and stop yapping at you and let you hear. This is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for. It is very personal to me because it's a piece I've been playing all of my life. It is from another of those Bibles that we keep as violinists. This is what it's called. If you are my student and you don't yet own this, now is the time. Get yourself a copy, and in particular, if you could find the edition by Henry Schering, even better. Galamian, of course, fabulous. I got to meet Ivan before he left us. But the Schering is the edition that we use here at the studio, and there are many reasons for that, especially for violinists. I'll be happy to share with you if you're interested. For now, I'm going to say goodbye. I wanted to be sure to cover all the sponsors. Terry Flint, I love you. You're a brother to me. My cousin, Brent Patterson, is yet another one of those reasons why I'm still able to sit in this chair and talk to you at all. I'd like to say hello to Rick and Tammy Newsom for their kind of sponsorship, which is of a sort that really can't be explained using the English language. I love you to pieces. A big thank you to my fiance, Aria Noel Curzon, for her constant support and help. And I'll tell you, I'm not that easy to put up with. You might be able to tell already. Glasser, Connolly and Company, which leads us to Tomastic, Infeld dominant violin strings, Stewart Barr at Industrial Finishes up in Eugene, Oregon. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just by the grace of God I'm able to sit here and say your name at all. I can't thank you enough. Many, many thanks, especially tonight. The gentleman we're celebrating is Dr. Myron Wentz of the Wentz Foundation. This is indeed for you. I hope you enjoy this performance, and we'll catch you on the flip side here at the Fiddler LLC. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the Bach.
listening to the Fiddler's Forum with American violinist Alex DePue. Join us each week for a new episode on the Fiddler's Forum. Copyright 2021 The Fiddler LLC, a California